Bunny TC, Dark Shear on Rhaegar, and Sinister on Jaina versus Aortic Arch on Tracer. That's an awesome name. Office Line on Kerrigan, Lucky Shrimp on Thrall, Shondoff on Uther, and Dova on Arya. We're going to talk about some things here real quick. If you're on a Vikings team, you know all your lanes are going to be looked after, right? Your lanes are going to get babysat the shit out of. Right? You don't need to worry about that, but you always have to consider when you have Vikings of, are you an early game team comp or are you a late game team comp? Are you a push comp or are you not? If you can push a lane really hard, if you have a Sylvanas or a Hammer in particular, then you just want to go push a lane. You're done. You're fine. If you have some sort of burst damage comp, then you want, or some sort of comp that enables picks, you want to rotate around and get those picks. Because that'll take pressure off of the Vikings. This is obviously a pick comp. Butcher Jaina, like power slide into charge into Blizzard, that's a dead whatever. It's just a dead hero. Straight up a dead hero. But you're always fighting a person down when you're fighting with Vikings. So you actually don't want to go mid. Normally we go mid at the start to clear this wave so we can start a rotation, but we don't care. The Vikings are going to soak this wave. Even if they clear it later, they're still going to do the soak. You want to go like here, in one of these bushes. Or here. So when the enemy team realizes you're not there, they split up to, you know, go soak their lanes, and then you catch them on their rotation and you get your first pick. It's a little bit hard to do in Hero League, but if you're the tank, just... And here's what you can do. Whenever you're the tank for a Vikings comp, just be like, everyone stay with the tank. Everyone follow me. And the tank, as long as the tank knows these things, everyone else will know these things too. So Jaina, not quite on the ball here with her Blizzard, unfortunately. Should have immediately put it down as soon as Lord Boo got the power slide. But he ends up going down to the combo. And that's why you don't do this. Because you're in a 5v4. Right? You only ever take fights that are in your favor unless you have to take fights. So we can attribute that loss, that first kill, entirely to not understanding that concept. Balog's going to go down the top lane. And here's the problem. Anytime the enemy team gets ahead in terms of kills and doesn't feel the pressure of your 4-man rotation, the Vikings are very easy to rotate on and pick off. The Vikings are very, very fragile, right? And anyone who has a lick of sense is going to check bushes and be able to 1v1 them. And Lucky Shrimp here demonstrating that maybe doesn't quite get that concept. Should be checking the should be checking the bushes. Butcher and Jaina both falling behind on the rotation. Again, they just need to be together. You just need to be together as 4. Lucky Shrimp finally checks the bush. It's pretty funny. Olaf gonna check the bush. Here's a tip for Vikings players, actually, that doesn't get talked about enough. If you're not good at managing all 3 Vikings consistently, the stealth talent at level 1 on Eric, Spy Games, that just makes him invisible, is really useful. Like, you should, if you're learning to play Vikings, Viking Bribery is amazing, and it's just amazing. Viking Bribery is just amazing talent. But if you're in a situation where you're just not that good at playing Vikings, just take the stealth talent level 1, park Eric in a bush, or even park Eric like here, because no one's going to think he's right there. And as long as they don't see you stealth, you're going to get all the soak for free, and you never actually have to look at Eric. Can you talk more about Uther Ariel? I don't like the Uther Ariel, to be honest, but notice that they don't have a tank, and Uther is by far the tankiest of all the supports. If Uther just stands in the front line, he's going to absorb a lot of damage. We can actually click on him real quick here. You see it does have 2.3k health. ETC has 2.3k health. This is not like some fantastic coincidence. Uther has a lot of health for support. If Uther literally just stands in the front, he'll absorb a lot of damage, and once he dies, he heals for even more than he would otherwise. So I don't know what happened in this draft for Red Team. Obviously this was submitted by Lord Boo, so we know what happened in their draft to a degree. But I don't know what happened in this draft. But without a tank, Uther just being in front, absorbing much damage, and then dying is going to work out really well. I don't like Aura Uther together generally. Yeah, ETC does not, in fact, have more health than Uther. They are, in fact, identical. It's pretty funny. Uther has a tank's health scaling. So Butcher overextended, ends up going down. They end up getting a kill on the Uther. And Office Line actually stealing a lot of seeds here, but Balog ends up going down again. Olaf in the mid lane. Notice the Vikings are just constantly rotating around. We see Eric now in the top lane. Generally speaking, it's easier cognitively for most people to keep one Viking per lane, so it's always Olaf top, always Balog mid, and always Eric bot, or reverse that. But as long as your Vikings are always in the same lane, there's not really an optimal way to have your Vikings. It's just one of those things where you always want to be very careful about making sure you always know where they are. That's a display glitch? That's a weird display glitch then. Wait, how is that a glitch? What's Uther's pace? Because we're looking at the level 5 scaling. Click on Uther real quick. Uther out in the Garden Terror. I'll click on Uther later. So this is a 4v2 now. Blizzard comes down a little bit late, but Office Line gonna go down. Free kill on Kerrigan. Very nicely done. And they can just rotate to the plant while the rest of the team soaks the lanes. They need to go do the plant right now, though. Blue base is 2054. Then why is it displaying in game? Ariel's health is right. Let's see. Trader's health is right. Butcher's health seems correct. Jaina's health is right. Everyone's health is right. Did they change Uther's health in the patch and like not documented in the patch notes? Because they did change him a little bit. That would be pretty funny. Jarda doing his best in the bottom lane. Lucky Shrimp actually doing a lot of work against this Viking. I don't... That was the healing talent, by the way. Explosive attacks plus pain don't hurt is what allowed Balog to stay alive there for quite so long. We're going to check on this health thing after Uther comes out of the tear. Both teams are currently level 7, so they should have the same scaling up to this point. Although level 8 picked up here. Uther's so it was a display bug. His health dropped back down. That was really weird. 28-12. That makes more sense. Uther does have a lot of health, though. Uther has like the most health of any of the supports. He's the tankiest of the supports.
Hero slain.
Eric ends up going down again in the mid lane. Good rotation here. Lucky Shrimp going into the aggressive engage. The Blizzard finally comes down in time, actually face melting out of the Blizzard. But it doesn't matter. Thrall ends up going down regardless, and that will be another free pick. And they have such a good chain. Like every 15 seconds, they can erase someone. Oh, here's something that never gets talked about, I don't think, and it actually really matters. We're going to talk about syncing your cooldowns compositionally. It's important when making gank attempts to know how long the cooldown is on various things. So we have the stun here from Butcher, Ruthless Onslaught. The base cooldown is 15 seconds. But it has Unrelenting Pursuit, so it gets reduced. Jaina's Wombo combo is a 15-second cooldown because of Blizzard. And Power Slide is a 12-second cooldown. So every 15 seconds, these three heroes can kill someone. Just every 15 seconds, easy free kill. But with the cooldown to 10 seconds on Blizzard's Relentless Charge and the cooldown and Power Slide being 12 base, if they had a different hero besides Jaina that had burst, like if they had a Li Ming, whose cooldowns are 3 and 8, and they're 3 and 10, something like that, 4 and 10. If they had a Kel'Thas, whose combo can be like a 8-second cooldown, if you count the stun and his trait and his bomb, right? So depending on, you're always limited in your gank attempts by the longest cooldown in the rotation of the abilities that you're using. right? So Kerrigan's combo is 12 seconds. With battle momentum, she can cut it down considerably. But it tends to be that you have this 10 to 15 second window where you can actually kill people with your combination. That's the 10 to 15 second window. But it usually takes 10 to 15 seconds to rotate between lanes. So there's a tempo to ganking. You use your cooldowns to kill a person in lane. You auto-attack the wave because that person is no longer in the lane and they're dead. Killing the wave allows your wave to push up to the towers. The towers kill the wave, and if no one rotates down before that happens, they lose the kill experience and the wave experience. Then you mount up, you go to a different lane, your cooldowns are available, and you do it again. Right? You can't just gank 24/7. You can only gank every 10 to 15 seconds. And there's a tempo to it, right? When we talk about wave clear enabling rotations, it's because you don't want to leave the wave before the wave is leave the lane before the wave is clear. But if, for instance, Jaina is your wave clear hero and her cooldown's on her cooldown is 15 seconds on her wave clear and her gank potential, you can clear the wave as Jaina, but then you can't gank someone. One Sweet Jones, thank you for the follow. Got to tab out. Right? So one of the reasons that Jaina dropped off a lot is because Blizzard is on such a long cooldown, you can't use it to clear the wave and gank someone because of the cooldown. Something to think about when you're doing these 4-man rotations or 4-man gank squads. Think about where your wave clear is going to come from as your follow-up to the kill, and how long your cooldowns are, your important cooldowns are, when it comes to wave clearing versus ganking. Yeah, occasionally Bottler drops out of the channel. You see Jarden on the top lane. Note the Vikings team is falling behind because of how little pressure the 4-man rotation is putting on. They are starting to get the hang of it, a little bit of practice. Ariel's going to get picked off here in the mid lane. No chance at all she would see that now. None at all. And here's how you want to gank. Here's how you want to do ganking compositions. You kill someone, you clear the wave, it pushes up to the towers, they miss the experience, and then you rotate. Every time you kill someone, you want to look at the minimap and try and establish where people are. So it's kill someone, look at the minimap, kill someone, look at the minimap. In this case, we can see the pinging is already happening. Uther is alone and overextended in the lane. Kerrigan looks like she might be alone and is overextended in the lane. That's all you see. You know Tracer and Thrall are alive, but you don't see them on the map. So do you go for Kerrigan or do you go for Uther? Uther has more health and self-sustain, but he has no mobility. Kerrigan has the potential to ravage out, has less health, but has quite a bit. I mean, and she also has self-sustain in the form of her trade. But I think it's a little bit easier in general to kill Uther, particularly because you were here, right? So you're rotating from here to here, which denies some of the lane. We do see the stun coming in. Ethics42, thank you for the follow. Or Ethic42. Nice body blocking there from Darkshire, making sure that kill happened. And now you are at a position where you have a camp pushing. You got the kill, you have the camp pushing. You can start to kill the buildings very, very effectively. You pick up 10 here, that's actually critical. You never want to beat down a talent tier. So, and they're going to continue to push. And BP Princess does a lot of siege damage. All auto attackers in general do a lot of siege damage when they can just stand there and attack a building. Kind of the exception to Tracer. But most auto attack heroes just do a lot of damage when they can stand there. Sunder comes out for the split. Lord Boots taking so much damage. It actually needs to be Ancestral right there. Oh. Oh. Oh no. So Darkshire had not picked Ancestral. And I looked up and was like, why is he not casting Ancestral? It turns out he hadn't picked it yet. Unless you pick a talent, you're not actually up a talent tier. You're only up a level. But in this case, they're even level. So if you need to pick your talent instantly. You should think about at the very start of the game what talent you're going to want at each level. And when you know you're coming up on a talent tier, sometimes you'll even like click on your hero, tab open, and be like, okay, it's Control 2. I'm going to hit Control 2 the moment I hit 10. You want to pick your talent instantly, because if you don't, you're not actually up a talent tier. If Ancestral had been selected there in time, and he had time, he could have easily gotten the Ancestral off on Lord Boo, and this fight would look very different because they would still have a tank. But instead, they're now in a 3v3. Lamb is still available. Lamb could actually instantly go down to Tracer here. He actually misses, but he gets Tracer anyway. That's fine. A wasted Ancestral, misclicked onto Sinister. Looks like Darkshear's aware of it. What about when people Iacona it? I mean, and that's a viable strategy. So, actually, make this the highlight. If you don't pick a talent when you're up a talent tier, you don't actually have that talent, you don't have the advantage of being up a talent tier. There are some arguments, and it's called Iaconing it in the pro scene, for delaying talents until you actually need them, if your talent is going to be different. Right? So if you don't know what talent you're going to take, difference. A really good example is, do you need Cleanse? Sometimes, you know, a lot of people don't have confidence in their ability to use Cleanse effectively, but sometimes you need Cleanse absolutely, for instance, versus Murky. You need Cleanse for Octograb. So you wait until level 10 to see if Murky takes Octograb. If he doesn't take Octograb, then you don't take Cleanse. If he does take Octograb, then you take Cleanse. So sometimes, or Death Mosh on ETC, sometimes there's a point where you want to hold the talent to surprise the enemy team, but it is very rare to want to hold the talent when you're engaging in a team fight, because you want that advantage of actually having that talent. Tends to happen more on supports than it does on anyone else, or it tends to happen on tricky level 20s. Again, this is another 4v4 situation. Kerrigan did half it back. Mosh ends up going down and gets interrupted by the bear. That feels bad. Yeah, you can't... There's certain situations where you can't mosh. You can't mosh near terrors. You can't mosh near bosses. You can't mosh near punishers unless they're on your team. You can't mosh near Dragon Knights unless the Dragon Knight's been caught in the mosh. You can't mosh near immortals. Right? You just can't do that because you can get interrupted by random PvE things. You just can't mosh in the circumstance. It doesn't matter how good the mosh looks, you can just never risk it. Nice cleanse on the Bee Princess, but ends up being a little bit early. Blizzard gets a lot of value there, but Maelstrom just doesn't end up doing anything at all. Or Maelstrom actually saves off his line, denies all that Blizzard damage from existing. BP Princess doesn't end up doing anything else. I should check the meat stacks when BP Princess reses. Office line doing the zoning. Lord, we're getting a little bit caught out. Power slides for the disengage. And that's why you want that distance. You can use the distance to engage aggressively, but you can also use the distance to get away faster. The distance is just such a better talent because there's offensive and defensive uses, whereas all of other ETC's level 1 talents have defensive uses only. I mean, you can mosh and the enemy team has 5 stuns, just get them all in the mosh, it's fine. Or kill one of them and get all 4 of them in the mosh. You can hold mosh, you can threaten mosh. Mosh is always a threat. But you can't be in a scenario where random things can interrupt you. It's actually Breakfast Princess, or BP, not BP Princess. I mean, I'm just going by what I see on the screen. Nice ring, ends up doing quite a bit of work actually. Uther ends up going down first because Uther's basically playing tank. Thrall ends up going down, Silence onto the Ariel, that is a free kill. That ends up being a 3 for none. What? Did I? Okay, that was an out-of-combat Ancestral. That was an out-of-combat Ancestral. Spell Shield picked up. As well as Stormfront for Jaina going for the extra distance. I probably would have gone Icy Veins here. Vikings get, yes, 100%. Looks like Vikings did come in for the boat. They need to make sure they split that back up so they are again soaking all the lanes. Lord Boo almost dies. Ancestral not available because it was used just to top off Sinister. A little bit of a catch on the Polymorph. Lord Boo at this point just needs to back. He needs health. He's peeling for his team. But at some point you need to like just ping retreat and be like out of health. You need to back. And he's probably going to end up dying here. He does barely manage to live. Thrall does not have 13, so he's not picked up Giant Killer yet. I think if he had a Giant Killer, that would have been a death. Divine Shield on Tracer, living with 17 health, manages to get out. Thrall finally ends up going down. If you're behind on XP with if you're behind on the XP race with Vikings, you effectively lost, right? You're not in good shape, to be honest, but you haven't lost. A level 20 Vikings with Fury of the Storm is actually one of the best win conditions in the entire game, and it doesn't matter if you hit 20 at the same time as the enemy team or not. It's just so much pressure. The only important part is that you haven't actually lost the game yet. We are seeing the Vikings not split up here, though. This is the real problem. The Vikings are all, like, together. You really just want to keep soaking. Actually, I think that at a minimum until 16, at a minimum until 13, but ideally until 16, you just always want to be soaking all the off lanes with the Vikings. And you just don't want your team to die and feed to negate that advantage. If they can get picks, that's fine. The most important thing is just not dying and keeping pressure off the Vikings. But not splitting up the Vikings here, like this wave is being unsoaked. This is like a quarter of a level worth of experience. Now the PPL show match is tonight at 7 PST. That's like 5 hours from now. This is a replay submitted for Throne Game Thursdays. Actually update the title. Another Thunder coming in. ETC ends up going down again. Shardo trying to run away with Eric. It's pretty funny. And again, this goes back into that concept. You never want to fight unless you have to, or you're at an advantage. You just never want to fight unless you have to, or you're at an advantage. Those are the two times you actually want to fight. If both teams are level 10, both teams have 5 players up, and an objective spawns, and everyone goes to fight at the objective, that's fine, because you kind of have to fight at the objective. You can't just let them have the objective for free. Although sometimes you can, like if you have a Sylvanas and the objective's not very valuable and you go push the far lane, you get more value off that push than they get from the objective, right? But overall, you never want to fight unless you're even or you have an advantage. Those are the two situations where it's okay to fight. The only time you don't want to fight is unless you're even or you don't have an advantage, is if not fighting literally loses you the game. So if they're literally on your core, killing your core, and you're down a talent tier, well then you have to fight. Right? So again, you have the situation where you have Vikings soaking, you're in a 5v4 scenario because they're all top, and you go for a little bit of a flank. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. Things that are advantages, you have a talent tier up on them. You have a body count up on them. You know, you're 3v2, 4v3, 4v1, whatever. You have heroics off cooldown, and they don't. If you have shorter cooldown heroics, like the entire enemy team has 80 to 120 second cooldowns on their heroics, and all of yours are 60, you can play around their long cooldown heroics. You can bait them out, back off, wait, go in, use your heroics, back off, and then you know your heroics are going to be up again before theirs are. You can go in and pick another fight. You want to fight when you have an advantage. You don't want to fight when they have an advantage, and if you're forced to fight on even terms, well, sometimes you have to fight on even terms, and that's fine. So, when you're playing with Vikings, you wait for the enemy team to be split up. You don't fight 5v4. You just don't ever fight 5v4 when you have a Vikings player, because the Vikings will eventually strangle the map. The Vikings will eventually get you ahead. All you have to do is protect the Vikings. They can't stay as 5 and beat the Vikings. They have to split up in order to deal with the Vikings, so as long as they're split up, then you can start working on them. Right? You just never want to take an even fight if you can help it. If you do have to take an even fight, make sure you're taking an even fight. Only take an uneven fight if not taking that fight will literally lose you the game, and usually the only time that's true is if they're literally on your core. sometimes, like on Cursed Hollow, a late game boss can end the game, so if there's no keep in the lane. So if you know they're on boss, sometimes you have to go for contest boss even though you don't think you're going to win. But for the most part, you just never fight down an advantage. Just don't do it. If you win, it's because they played badly, not because you played well. Because you shouldn't win a fight where the enemy team has an advantage. It shouldn't happen. Here's a good example of having an advantage. 16 to 15, they actually could have gone top and contested here instead of gone bot. They guarantee the Terra this way, which is worthwhile. But like these are the opportunities you want to look out for. And some of them are narrow. Sometimes you have like 10, 15 seconds where you have a talent to your advantage. Right, but you have that 30-second period where you can force a fight. And when I say force a fight, I mean go on the enemy team side of the map and get value. Like, if you're up a talent here, you can force into a camp, and either they fight you, or you get a camp for free. Right? So you didn't get the fight you wanted, but you still got an advantage on the map.
Red team has destroyed a fort. A terror has bloomed.
Hey, Agant 512. Welcome from North America. Olaf getting picked off in the mid here. This Vikings player is just like stop splitting his Vikings. Not happy about that. Sinister's just literally waiting sinisterly in the bushes for everyone to overextend. This is a general note on Garden of Terror, but it's important to play with the Terror. Like, the Terror should be with the team. If your Terror refuses to be with you, then just push with the Terror. Just like follow the Terror around. They're gonna lose a keep here, but they could have gotten more value pushing with the Terror. Jardo's just gonna waste this Terror, unfortunately. And the Vikings player is the ideal player to have in the Terror, but sometimes if you have someone on your team who's a noticeably bad Terror pilot and doesn't understand when to use it, you gotta help them out. Tell them that you want them here or there. Piloting the Terror is actually really a critical skill if you're going to be playing the Garden of Terror. Luther with the self-Divine Shield. We do see the ring hitting 2 people. Divine Shield wore off just in time, but no follow-up. The damage. Aegis getting absolutely wrecked there with the Blizzard follow-up. And Sendoff not getting killed despite everything. Generally don't want to kill Luther. We finally see an Ancestral land on the right target. Sinister jukes the combo and then does not juke the combo. Interesting decision there. Ends up getting saved by a cleanse temporarily, but then ends up going down anyway. This is not a pro match. This is a user-submitted replay. We will be getting to some Grandmaster, Master level games after this. This is basically going to be a free keep. I believe this is a gold level game. It was played in unranked draft, but I think the average MMR was gold.
Night falls, heroes. How I love to see my garden in the moon's glow.
This is the result of that what I'm talking about. If they played with Vikings correctly from the early game, the Vikings team would easily be ahead in experience. But because they allowed the Vikings to get a lot of pressure, they didn't constantly get picks and rotate his score. I mean, it was the first Ancestral that landed during a fight on a target who was actually in danger of dying. So, in my mind, that makes it the first Ancestral for the game. It wasn't the best use of that Ancestral in that fight, but it was the first correct Ancestral, period. A little bit of a split here. Sinister going to clear the camp while everyone else is like, we need to pick a fight. We need to pick a fight. Again, this is now a 5v3 as a result, although the Vikings are all here, so Boat will end up getting some value. Boat should be popped instantly at the start of these sorts of fights, because otherwise that happens. Boat popped very late here. Lord Boo takes tons of damage. And this fight should not even have been taken. As soon as Jaina wasn't there... And here's a really simple rule. Before you take any fight, you look at the minimap. The minimap's right here. Anyone can look at it anytime they want to. It's right here. And you don't necessarily know where their team is, so you gotta assume the worst case. You always gotta assume that unless you see their team on the map, or you just saw their team on the map, that they're together as 5. You always assume that they're together as 5, unless you know for a fact they're not, because you look at the minimap and you see them out there. But you can always see your team. You always know where your team is. So if I look at this minimap, and my entire team is here, and I see some of their team, I assume that they're all here. I look at my minimap, I see 4 of my team is here, but I see my Jaina's over here. This is a 4v5. And we just went over, what do you do when you're in a 4v5? You just don't take the fight. You just don't do it. So once the Jaina's not there, you have to back off. Right? It sucks that the Jaina made the wrong call of your, or not even the wrong call. It sucks that the Jaina made the call of, I'm going to clear this camp, and your team is like, we want to fight. Right? What's worse is that, we talked about this earlier, syncing cooldowns. Jaina's Blizzard is a 15-second cooldown. If Jaina uses Blizzard to clear this wave, not only can you not take this fight right away, you can't take this fight for 15 seconds. Because you have to wait for Blizzard to come back up. You can always look at the minimap to know where your team is. You can look at the minimap to guess where the enemy team is, and you never take a fight that you're not even or ahead on, unless not taking it will lose you the game. And that's a fight. It's pretty simple. You could have just looked at the minimap, and the entire team would have known, oh, Jaina's not here, we can't do this. So the Vikings pop Boat late, which ends up in all the Vikings dying to leave. Zoning Ring ends up doing pretty much nothing. And they will get out of here, but they're going to lose... they lost 2 heroes basically for free. KK Pop, thank you. Appreciate that. Enjoy your HOTS playing shenanigans. It's another pretty big mosh pit. Office Line literally walks into it. That mosh didn't do anything. It was a good mosh in the sense that it hit a lot of people, but it was a terrible mosh in the sense that there was no damage to follow it up. Sinister wasn't there. Sinister had already burned Ring of Frost as a zoning ring. Didn't even do anything. And particularly with Mosh's case, it's such a long cooldown. Greyfound 0, thank you for the follow. In Mosh's case, it's such a long cooldown, you need to save it for when it's actually going to have an impact. Just moshing people doesn't do anything. Your team needs to actually follow up. You can make the argument that it's sort of peeled a little bit, but I think that Sinister and... I think Sinister was safe, and there was no way Rhaegar was living. Rhaegar was just 100% dead. Also, getting into the late game, at this point, your next objective is to soak 20. Oh, here's a timing your heroics around objectives and around levels. So you're not going to fight until you're 20, but you're only half a level from 20. If that was an 18.5 to 20 scenario, it might have been worth it to try and save the Rhaegar, because you know you're not going to fight for another 2 minutes or so, because Mosh is not going to be available. But knowing you're so close to 20, you should be like, I'm not going to Mosh, I'm going to let the Rhaegar die regardless, because if the Rhaegar dies, he'll be back up when we hit 20, and then Mosh will still be available, and then we can force a fight with all our heroics. So by burning a long cooldown heroic there, that really matters. It doesn't apply as much to shorter cooldown heroics, because they'll be available almost regardless. Like Entomb would be available, Aegis would be available, any 60-second CD would pretty much be available before the 20 versus 20 fight goes all in, but Mosh will 100% not be. Which is why, as a rule, you should just not use Mosh unless you're guaranteeing a kill. Just because the cooldown is so long. And sometimes it feels bad. Sometimes it feels bad as a tank in particular. Like, I could save my team, but I have to blow this heroic in a really stupid way to do it. It's usually not a good idea. Like, look at that. Look at that. There was a 4-man mosh there. There was a 4-man mosh there. And 54 seconds. Still not level 20. Bad fight. Ariel ends up going down. Or no, Butcher and Tracer end up going down. A little bit of a... There's been a bug ever since the patch with death names. Sometimes they're wrong. Boat ends up getting erased. Senendorf is very low. Sinister ends up going down. So this ends up being a brutal 3-for-3 so far. Which, honestly, considering we started a talent tier down, is pretty fair. The chase is real. Darkshear and 2 Vikings. Vikings take the boat upgrade. Let's see if Viking takes the boat upgrade. The Vikings took Nexus Blades. Okay. Not my talent of choice, shall we say, for Vikings. But... honestly, this Terror can just end the game. This game is over. If Shenendorf goes core, he can just literally end the game. This is a 19-minute Terror without defense with an open core. All he has to do is pot the core, focus the core, stutter step around the core, and the game will be over. He's not doing that, which inclines me to believe he's not going to do that.
I see you've survived another night. How wonderful for you.
But we'll see.
Hero slain.
I'm just basking in the glory at this point. Mosh Pit actually saving the core by moshing the Terror. Not something you get to see very often. 5. The Death Mosh. The Death Mosh. Oh my god, the Death Mosh, and no.